Have you ever had something happen to you and you're like, how in the world did I get here? How did it get this bad? What happened along the way that got me to this place? Like, how in the world am I in this situation? What did I do wrong? When did it happen? How long have I been on the wrong track? And can I get back to the right place? Is there any way to even fix this problem? Or am I too far gone? Are the situations too bad? Have I just gotten myself into too big of a mess and there's nothing that can really be done about it now? Especially if the situation is really bad at this point or it's been going on for a really long time. Sometimes we're kind of hopeless. We're like, I've lost too many years. I don't know how to get that back. I don't know how this situation can be redeemed, even if I try to start doing the right thing at this point. Is there any hope, right? And as we end the book of Judges, we see how bad the nation of Israel has gotten. And they do the same thing. They're like, how did we get in this situation? And what can we do to preserve this one tribe who has now done something so bad that we've killed almost all of them? And so we're going to talk about this story in Judges and how Israel has gotten themselves into this mess. And maybe that will give us a little insight as to how we get ourselves in these types of situations and what we can do to get ourselves out. So let's go ahead and get started. The last episode, several episodes, we've been talking about Samson. And now these are the last three chapters of Judges. And we don't know exactly when this happened. It doesn't tell us. It just says in the time of Judges. So we're not exactly sure when this happened, but this is just kind of a little instance of how bad things got in this time frame. And so what happens is there is a Levite that lives in Ephraim, in the land of Ephraim, and he's traveled at some point down to Bethlehem, which is in the northern part of Judah. And he's gotten himself a concubine and he brings her back and she is his wife. And at some point she becomes unfaithful to him and decides to go back home and stay at her dad's house. And after about 4 months, this Levite is like, I really want to go back and get my wife. And so he heads back to Bethlehem and he takes with him a donkey. And this is to show that, he's giving a gift. He is coming to make peace. He's trying to persuade her to come home as opposed to forcing her, which would be his right, or as opposed to punishing her, which would also be his right because she has betrayed him. And so he gets there to this house of his father-in-law, and his father-in-law is very happy to see him. And he asks him, hey, stay with me for a few days. I'd like for y'all to stay here. And so the Levite stays there with his wife and his father-in-law for 3 days. And on the morning of the 4th day, he says, okay, I want to take my wife back home with me now. And the father-in-law is like, oh, no, don't leave yet. Just stay until the evening. Leave this evening. And he's like, all right, that's fine. I'll leave this evening. Then the evening comes and he's like, oh, it's late. Don't leave tonight. Stay until the morning. And he's like, all right, fine. I'll stay till the morning. And so the next morning he gets up and he's ready to go with his wife. And the father-in-law is like, I just wish you would stay the rest of the day. Leave tonight. And he's like, okay, fine, but I'm leaving tonight. And when the night comes, the father-in-law tries it again. And he's like, nope, I'm done. We're going. And so he loads up his donkey and he has a servant with him and then his wife, and they head back north to the land of Ephraim. But it's a long journey. They have to travel through the land of Benjamin and then up into the land of Ephraim. And so they need a place to stay the night. And his servant says, hey, let's just stay in Jabus. And he said, no, because Jabus is owned by the Jebusites. Eventually, this becomes Jerusalem because they get rid of all the Jebusites there and they make it their own. But at this point, the Jebusites live there. And so he's not like, no, I'm not staying in a foreign land. We're going to keep traveling. And so they go about 4 miles north and they get into a place called Gibeah. And so they go into the open square and they're just going to stay there the night. Because they don't have anywhere else to go. And then an old man comes and says, no, don't stay in the square. Come and stay at my house. I will feed your donkey and wash your feet and give you food and everything, and you'll have a place to stay. And so they do. And while they're sitting around that evening enjoying each other's company and everything, the men of the city come to the door and surround the house, and they ask the man, the old man, bring out the guest that you have, and we want to sleep with him. Not his wife, but him. And so obviously this is a grave sin that they're asking this man to, help them commit. And he says, no, that's such a horrible thing to ask. First of all, this man is my guest. And second of all, he's a man and you should never ask to do something like that. And so in order to appease the mob, because it is more acceptable to sleep with a woman than it is for them to sleep with a man, he offers not only the concubine that the man has brought, but also his virgin daughter. He's like, basically, it's unacceptable for you to ask for this man, and I'm not going to give you that, but I will give you the women that are here in this house. And they're not happy with this. They say that they're not happy with this, but they do take the concubine. Now, there's no mention of them taking his virgin daughter. And so the assumption is that not only are they willing to, sleep with this man and then sleep with his concubine, but they are doing this specifically because they're foreigners, because they don't live there. And so since they don't live there, they're like, no, I'm not going to take your virgin daughter. You're someone that lives in this town and we don't want to do that to you. But since we don't know this guy, we're going to treat him badly. And so they've done 3 things already, right? Bad. By asking to sleep with this man, by treating strangers like this, and then by taking his concubine. But when they take her, they don't just sleep with her once. It says they raped her all night long. And then when day breaks, she basically crawls up to the door of the house and dies. It was a brutal night. And so she dies there on the doorstep. Now, for this man who was so kind to go home to go back to Bethlehem and persuade his wife to come back with him instead of forcing her and instead of punishing her, he seems wonderful in that situation. But in this situation, it says that after the man got up from a night's sleep and he goes out to get his wife. So first of all, he has allowed them to take his wife and then goes to sleep. If he had no option to give his wife, you can understand there's a mob at the door and his life is probably threatened and all of that. So on the one hand, you could kind of understand that he does that, because what good is it going to do for him to fight these people and then kill both of them? But the fact that he's able to go to sleep that night knowing that they have his wife is, something that we can't comprehend. But that's what he does. And then when he opens the door, he sees his wife laying there. And, maybe he was compassionate towards her, but it doesn't act as if he is. It says that he sees his wife laying there and he's like, hey, get up, we got to go. And so it doesn't seem like he's got a very good attitude towards her. And this is obviously upsetting, but she doesn't get up. And then he realizes, oh, she's dead. And so he puts her on the donkey, goes ahead and goes back to his house. And then when he gets to his house, he is so angry about what they have done to his wife that something else that we can't comprehend, because they were just a violent people back then. But he's so angry about this that it says he cuts his wife up into 12 different pieces and sends her throughout the land to just show everybody in Israel, hey, look what happened to my wife. Like, these people killed her. And now here are parts of her dead body. And so that ends chapter 19, and chapter 20 starts out with the people being like, wow, what in the world happened? And so they all gather together in Mizpah and they ask the Levite, they're like, what in the world is going on? Tell us the story. What happened here? And he says, well, I was traveling back from Bethlehem to my land and I needed somewhere to sleep. So I stopped in Gibeah and this old man asked me to come and stay with him. And while I was there that night, these men surrounded the place and sought to kill me, and eventually ended up taking my concubine instead. And then they raped her so brutally that she died. And the people are like, yeah, that's absolutely horrible. This should never happen in Israel, right? This is a sin that, we know happened in Sodom. This is why God, one of the reasons, or at least the instance that we see of why God killed the people in Sodom, because when the angels went to visit and they stayed there with Lot, they wanted to rape the angels, the men there. And they wanted to rape them. And he also offered his daughters, and it was a huge problem that happens in a foreign land, right? Some place that is not going by God's laws. No place that is going by God's laws should this ever happen. And so all the people in Israel are like, you've done so many bad things in this situation, I can't even count them. You wanted to sleep with a man. You treated the guests horribly. You raped this woman, took this man's woman, and then she died. So it's like all of these things are things that should never be named by any tribe in Israel. And so all of the people vowed to not go home until they have, made these people pay for their crimes. And so they go throughout the land of Benjamin, talking to the people there and saying, hey, give up these men. These men need to be put to death. We need to purge the evil from our land and get rid of these people, because this should never be happening in Israel. And they go about asking for these men, and the Benjamites will not turn them over. And so that makes them complicit in the crime, right? If you are harboring criminals, then you are, you're complicit. And so instead of handing them over, they decide to go against their fellow Israelites, and they begin to collect an army against them. And the people of Benjamin collect 26,700 men to fight against the Israelites. And 700 of these men are from Gibeah itself. And then it says that 700 out of the total 26,700 are left-handed. And these are excellent marksmen. It says that they can hit a piece of hair with a stone. And so they're, great shots. And this is what their army entails. And so these 26,700 gather against their fellow Israelite tribes that have totaled 400,000. So first of all, what are they thinking? How do they think that they're going to win against 400,000 men? Why would one tribe gather against 10 others? The Levites never fight, and so there's only 10 other tribes. But why would they do that? But this is what happens. And so they're basically faced off, and the tribe of Israel goes to Bethel, where they have the Ark of the Covenant at the time, and they inquire of the Lord there, who should we send up first against the tribe of Benjamin? Which tribe should we send? And presumably the reason that they go there where the Ark of the Covenant is because that's also where the Urim and the Thummim is. These are two things that the priests carry, and it says they're used to show God's will for things. And so we assume that there's something like casting lots. And so they do something with this, and the lot falls on the tribe of Judah. And that lets them know that Judah is the tribe that God wants to go up against these people. And so the next day, Judah goes up against these people. And it says that at that time, on the first day, 22,000 men die on that very first day of Israel, not of Benjamin. And so the Benjamites defeat the Israelites in the first day. And so obviously the people are sad, and they go to God and they say, do you want us to go up against them tomorrow? And God's like, yes, go up against them tomorrow. And so they go up against them tomorrow, and then they lose 18,000. And so then they're like, why are we losing, God? Do you want us to go against these people again? And so they cry and they fast and they offer offerings and they ask God, do we go up against them tomorrow? And God says, yes, go up against them tomorrow, and tomorrow I'll give you victory. And so then God gives them a game plan, and he says, set 12,000 men in ambush of the city, and then basically do, if you remember what they did with the city of Ai, they draw the people away, the rest of the men, draw the people away from the city. And so this is happening, and it looks as if the Benjamites are going to win again. It says that they killed 30 Israelites, and the Israelites look as if they're running away. And so they all think that the Benjamites are winning, but they're really just luring them away from the city so that the people that are laying in ambush can ambush the city, kill all the people there. And so that's what happens. And then when all of the people in the city are killed, then they burn the city. And when the Israelites that are running away, that are luring them away, see the smoke rising from the city, that's their signal that they can't run back to the city and be safe. And so they turn on them. And so when then the Benjamites have the army turn against them, and when they try to turn back to their town, they realize their town's on fire, and those 12,000 men are coming at them. And so then they realize, we're in trouble. We're not going to win like we thought we were going to win. And so then they start running towards the wilderness. And in this fight, they first kill 18,000 men. And then as they start to run towards the wilderness, they catch 5,000 more, kill them. Then they start running in another direction, they kill 2,000 more. So it says that day they killed 25,100 men. And then it says 600 do escape to the wilderness of Ramon. So that means 25,700 have been accounted for. 25,100 are dead and 600 are escaped. So that equals 25,700. Well, remember they had 26,700 people. So that lets us just deduce that even though it didn't tell us that anybody in the Benjamite army died the first 2 days, that they did kill 1,000 of their men. There was just no point in telling that because they were, minuscule in comparison. The Benjamites had killed tens of thousands of Israelites, and they had only killed hundreds of Benjamites. And so this is the total of the people that have died. And now the Israelites turn back and start killing all the rest of the people in the tribes of Benjamin, burning their cities. That ends chapter 20. And at the first of chapter 21, now they're reflective. Now they're sitting down and they're like, the battle is over. We've got 600 Benjamites left. That's it. And so they're thinking, how did we get here, right? How are we in this situation where one of our own tribes have done something so unspeakable that we had to go against them because they weren't even willing to give up the men that had done this unspeakable act? And now almost the entire tribe of Benjamin is been defeated and they're gone. And so now what do we do, right? How do we get past this situation? This is their exact word. This is Judges 21:2. And it says, they lifted up their voices and they wept bitterly. And they said, O Lord, God of Israel, why has this come to pass in Israel, that today there should be one of the tribes missing? And so they're devastated and they're like, what do we do now? This is bad. We got ourselves into a bad situation, and we don't really want the tribe of Benjamin to just be wiped from the face of the earth, but we don't know what to do because not only do we only have 600 men left, but they have no wives because we've killed all of the rest of the people in the tribe of Benjamin. And we all vowed when we found out what they did to this Levite's wife, we all vowed we're not giving any of our daughters to these people, right? Because the Gibeonites did this, and then the Benjamites protected them. And so we can't trust our daughters with these people. And so we've all said that we're not going to give our daughters to them. But if we don't give our daughters to them, then the tribe, even though we didn't kill the last 600, they're going to die, and that's going to be the end of the tribe. So what do we do? So they decide, well, is there anyone that didn't come with us to fight against the tribe of Benjamin? And they realize, yes, there is this one tribe that is the people from Jabesh Gilead, And they did not come up with us. And so these people did not promise not to give their daughters. And they also did not come to fight with us. And so we're going to go to battle against them. And then we'll take the virgin women from their tribe and give them to the Benjamites. And so they send 12,000 men to Jabesh Gilead. And they say, you need to kill everyone there except for the virgin women. And then we'll take those women and give them to the Benjamites. And so they go and they kill everyone there. And then they take 400 virgins from that place. Now, all this time, the Benjamites, the 600, are still hiding in the wilderness of Ramon. And so the rest of the Israelites send to the wilderness of Ramon to the Benjamites and say, hey, we want to make peace with you. We don't want the whole tribe wiped out. Come and meet with us. And so they come and meet with the rest of the Israelites, and there they tell them, we don't want your tribe to die away and be wiped out. And so we're not going to kill the rest of you. And as a matter of fact, we're going to give you these 400 women that we just captured from Jabesh Gilead. But we promised that we weren't giving our daughters to you because we can't trust you with them. Y'all did not treat them well. And so now we're in a pickle because we've got 200 more of y'all that don't have wives. And so they reasoned in their minds that they said they wouldn't give their daughters, but if the Benjamites took them, then that wouldn't be the same thing. And so they tell the Benjamites, here's the only idea that we have for all of us to, keep our vows and all of these things to work out like they need to. We're going to have a festival soon in Shiloh, and we'll allow you to take the women that come out to dance at the festival as your wives. And we're not going to stop you. We're not going to give them to you, but if you take them, then we're not going to stop you. And so that's what happens. They go out to this festival. They take 200 of the women as their wives, and then they go back home to Benjamin. Their whole, entire tribe, all of the land of Benjamin has been destroyed. But those 600 men go back with their 600 wives, and they rebuild the cities. And then the rest of the Israelites go back to their own cities and live their lives. And so this is how Judges ends. The last verse says, in those days, there was no king in Israel, and everyone did what was right in their own eyes. And so let's just go back to the place where they were right after the battle, when they're sitting around like, how did we get to this place? How did God's people get to a place where they could do something that is only named by foreigners? Most likely the reason that he didn't stay in the foreign land of Jabus is because they don't go by the same laws there, and he didn't know if he would be safe. But in another Israelite town, he should have been safe. He should have known that those people were going by God's laws, but they were not. And so they're sitting down now thinking, how did we get to this place? How could our nation, something like this happen in our own nation? And then after that, they're trying to figure out, how do we preserve what's left of the tribe of Benjamin, right?